Approval gates make human review a reliable control, not a last-minute judgment call. When an agent reaches a risky action, execution pauses, context is surfaced, a decision is captured, and the approved outcome is enforced and audited. We've already built the foundation: understanding agent risk, locking down tool access, defending against prompt injection, and deciding when approval is needed. Now we shift from when to involve a human to how the approval gate itself should be designed. An approval gate is a deliberate pause between an agent's plan and its execution. The agent can collect information, reason, and propose an action, but it cannot complete high-impact steps until a reviewer evaluates the proposal. That reviewer needs enough context to understand the risk, a clear choice such as approve, reject, or modify, and technical enforcement so the system actually follows the decision. The decision also needs to be recorded. That is what makes approval a built-in control, rather than an informal message outside the workflow. Think of this gate as a real security boundary, not a polite suggestion. The agent may plan an action, but sensitive operations must pass through enforcement outside the agent's own reasoning. That enforcement can live in orchestration, middleware, or a tool gateway, where direct tool calls and alternate execution paths are blocked. This matters because approvals only work if they cannot be bypassed. For data access, system changes, financial actions, or external communication, the decision should be deterministic, logged, and reviewable. Least privilege limits what is available. Approval gates authorize what happens at runtime. Pre-action review is a safety gate, not a productivity tax. The agent can plan and prepare, but it must stop before crossing boundaries where mistakes become real-world consequences. That includes sending messages, making or approving payments, changing databases, running code, altering permissions, deleting assets, or touching production systems. The reviewer checks intent, scope, recipient, cost, reversibility, and risk. Once those are confirmed, execution can continue deliberately. The pattern is simple: automate preparation, but require human confirmation before irreversible, external, or high-impact action. Gates work best when they respond to risk, not just action names. Sending an external email might be routine, or it might involve regulated data, a sensitive recipient, and unusual volume. The system should combine signals such as action type, data sensitivity, user privilege, blast radius, reversibility, and confidence. Higher risk actions get stronger gates, such as manager or multi-level approval. Lower risk actions can pass with light checks or auto-approval. That balance protects production, privileged accounts, regulated data, and external parties without exhausting reviewers or slowing ordinary work. A strong gate flow starts before the human is involved. First, the system detects that approval is required, based on policy, metadata, or risk. Then, it pauses safely, preserving workflow state so nothing is lost. Next, it packages the context the reviewer needs: intent, data, tool action, risk, and alternatives. The reviewer makes a decision through a trusted interface. Only then does the workflow resume, change course, or stop. Finally, every decision is logged, creating accountability and evidence for audits and future tuning. Human approval only works when the reviewer receives a complete decision package, not a mystery to investigate. The package should connect the user's request to the agent's objective, then show the plan, the exact tool call, its arguments, and the expected result. It should also make impact visible: what data changes, which systems or parties are touched, and what permissions are involved. Finally, give the reviewer judgment aids, such as risk level, policy warnings, safer alternatives, and rollback paths. The goal is to reduce guesswork, so approval is fast, accurate, and defensible. Good approval design turns agent activity into a clear, reviewable operation. Start with the facts that determine risk: what the agent wants to do, which systems are affected, and what the likely impact is. Then show what changed after the user's request, including assumptions, ambiguous instructions, or new targets the agent inferred. Anomalies should stand out immediately, such as unusual recipients, high data volume, privileged tools, or irreversible steps. Most importantly, approval must be tied to specific operations, not a vague prompt to continue. Clear context makes approval faster and safer. A useful approval gate is more than a yes or no checkpoint. In real workflows, reviewers need options that match the level of risk. Approve means the action can run exactly as proposed. Deny stops it or sends the workflow down a safer path. Modify is often the most practical choice. The reviewer changes parameters like lowering an amount, narrowing a query, or correcting a recipient, then allows execution. Escalate handles cases beyond the reviewer's authority. This keeps humans in control while preserving automation's momentum. An approval should authorize one exact operation, not a general intention. When a reviewer approves a payment, the system binds that decision to the tool name, the argument hash, the reviewer's authority, the timestamp, and the policy version in effect. The tool gateway then verifies a signed token before execution. If anything changes after approval, the recipient, amount, query scope, code, permissions, or affected data, the token no longer matches and a fresh approval is required. Expiration windows add one more control by preventing old approvals from being reused later. The gate is only as strong as the record it leaves behind. Treat every outcome, approval, denial, modification, or escalation as its own decision event. The audit record should capture who reviewed it, their role, when it happened, what workflow and tool call were involved, what assets were affected, and why the decision was made. Just as important, preserve the evidence package the reviewer actually saw at that moment. Store these records in a tamper-evident, searchable ledger, so compliance, investigations, and improvement efforts can reconstruct decisions across users, agents, tools, assets, risks, and time. Treat approval as an enforcement boundary, not a prompt to the agent. The agent can propose a risky action, but the orchestrator decides whether policy requires review. If it does, the system creates a review package with the action, rationale, affected data, and expected impact. The approval service records the context, waits for a human decision, then returns a signed or otherwise verifiable decision token. Finally, the tool gateway compares that token to the exact requested operation. If anything differs, execution is blocked. This prevents approval from becoming a reusable blank check. Approval gates rarely fail because the idea is wrong. They fail because the system around them is weak. If an agent can use another tool or direct credentials, the gate is theater. If the reviewer lacks clear context, approval becomes guessing. If every tiny action asks for approval, fatigue turns review into rubber stamping. And if records are incomplete, accountability disappears. Design the gate as an enforced control path, not a pop-up. Provide structured evidence, tune gates by risk, expire approvals, escalate unusual cases, and log the exact actor, reason, time, and parameters immutably. Approval gates make human oversight real by forcing the agent to pause before high-impact actions, giving reviewers enough context to judge risk, and recording every decision in an auditable way. The goal is not to slow autonomy, but to make it safe, accountable, and enforceable. Next, we move from approval to escalation. Who intervenes when decisions are uncertain or disputed?